Pleasure to have you with us this evening from wherever you are as we celebrate the beauty of Shabbat. Let us now rise. The cantor recites the blessings for the candles.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav V'tzivanu lehadlik ner V'tzivanu lehadlik ner V'tzivanu lehadlik ner Shel Shabbat
Be seated as we continue page 5, Shalom Aleichem, Malchei Hasharet.
Shalom Aleichem, Malchei Hasharet, Malchei Ayon, Melech Malchei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Malchem leShalom, Malchei Hashalom, Malchei HaKadosh Baruch Hu Baruchuni l'shalom Malachei HaShalom Malachei Elyon Ki Melech Malachei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu Zeitchem l'shalom Malachei HaShalom Malachei Elyon Mi Melech Malachei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Let us go and sing to Adonai. Let us trumpet praise to our protector. L'chuner Adonai l'Adonai, page 11.
L'chuner Adonai, l'chuner Adonai, l'chuner Adonai l'Adonai, l'chuner Adonai, l'chuner Adonai, l'chuner Adonai l'Adonai. Naria, Naria, letzuri sheinu, lekadma panav betoda. Naria, Naria, letzuri sheinu, izmirat Naria lo. L'chuner Adonai, l'chuner Adonai, l'chuner Adonai l'Adonai, l'chuner Adonai, l'chuner Adonai, l'chuner Adonai l'Adonai.
Let us now continue on page 14 in the middle of the page. Yismehu Hashamayim, the heavens shall be glad and the earth rejoice, as we begin the Shabbat.
Yismechu Hashamayim, Yismechu Hashamayim, השמיים ותגל הארץ. ישמחו השמיים, השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, השמיים, ישמחו השמיים ותגל הארץ. יירם הים, יירם הים, יירם הים ומלואו, יירם הים, יירם הים, יירם הים ומלואו. ישמחו השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, ישמחו השמיים ותגל הארץ. יירם הים, יירם הים, יירם הים ומלואו, יירם הים, יירם הים, יירם הים ומלואו.
Now we welcomed each other, and now we welcome the Sabbath bride. L'cha dodi likrat kala, page 23.
לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. שמור וזכור בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד. אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשם ותפארת, בלתילה, בלתילה. לך אדוני לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך אדוני לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי היא מקור הברכה. מראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה. תחילה לך אדוני לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. We rise and face the door. לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. בואי בשלום מתנת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצולה. תוך אמוני עם סגולה, בואי חלה, בואי, בואי חלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת
You may be seated. It is good to thank you, Adonai, and to sing your name most high, to proclaim your love at daybreak, your faithfulness each night. Tov lehadot l'Adonai, page 27.
טוב, טוב להודות, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר, ולזמר, ולזמר לשמך עליון. טוב, טוב, טוב להודות, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר, ולזמר, ולזמר לשמך עליון. להגיד בבוקר חסדך, באמונתך בלילות, עלי עשור ועלי נבל, עלי היגיון וכינור. טוב, טוב, טוב להודות, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר, ולזמר, ולזמר לשמך עליון. טוב, טוב, טוב להודות, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר, ולזמר, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך העליון. טוב, טוב להודות, טוב להודות לאדוני.
And now we invite those in mourning and those observing a yurtside, whether here in the Barg Sanctuary or from your home. We rise for the words of the Mourner's Kaddish, page 30. Yitzgadal v'yikadash shemei rabbah, v'yalma divrach yirteh v'yamlik machuteh, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayeh dechol beit Yisrael, v'agala b'zman kariv v'yimru amen, yehei shmei rabbah mevorach leolam omei amaya, yitzbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitroman v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekurusha b'richu, le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata, Tishbechata v'nechemata, damiram bi'ama v'yimru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shamaya, v'chayim aleinu v'yakol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Osei shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'yakol Yisrael v'yimru amen. And now I ask everyone to rise for the words of the Baruch Hu, page 39.
Baruchu et Adonai HaMevorach, Baruch Adonai HaMevorach leolam vaed.
And you may be seated now as we continue with Avat Olam, page 40.
אהבת עולם בית ישראל, בית ישראל עמך אהבת תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת, על כן אדוני אלוהינו, בשוכבנו בשוכבנו ובקומנו, נשיח, נשיח, נשיח בחוקך. אהבת עולם בית ישראל, בית ישראל עמך אהבת תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת, ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד, כי הם חיינו באורך ימינו, ובהם נגע יומם ולילה, ואהבתך ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע ישראל Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Please join with me. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha, ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavecha היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם, ושבתך בביתך, ולכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך, ובשעריך. We continue silently. Adonai Elohechem Emet. We continue page 44 with Mi Chamocha. Mi Chamocha ba'elim Adonai, Mi Chamocha nedar b'kodesh nora nora, nora dehilot osei pelem. Mi Chamocha ba'elim Adonai, Mi Chamocha nedar b'kodesh nora nora, nora dehilot osei pelem. Malchutcha ובניך, חוקי הים לפני משה. זה לי, ענו ויאמרו, מלכותך ראו בניך, חוקי הים לפני משה. זה לי, ענו ויאמרו. Hilot osei pelem. Mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai, Mi kamocha ne'edar b'kodesh nora nora, nora dehilot osei pelem. Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. Mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai, Mi kamocha ne'edar b'kodesh nora nora, nora tehilot osei pelem, osei pelem, osei pelem. Page 45. Ashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom, Vehamidenu malkeinu lechaim. Ashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom, Vehamidenu malkeinu lechaim. Ushmor tziteinu uvoveinu lechaim ulshalom me'ata ve'ad olam. Ve'ad olam ashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom, Vehamidenu malkeinu lechaim. Ashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom, Vehamidenu malkeinu Continue with Vishamru, page 46. Vishamru, Bnei Israel, et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat, ledorotam berit olam. Vishamru, Bnei Israel, et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat, ledorotam berit olam. אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם, ושמרו את ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני, עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו את ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. גנדל מדי ולחירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן, בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן, אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם ולעלמי עלמיה, יער וידרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילם מן כל ברכתה ושירתה ושבחתה ונחמתה, באמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן, ואמרו אמן, ואמרו אמן, ואמרו amen, amen.
The silent Amidah, page 47 through page 52. This time, as we enter Amidah, and according to the tradition, it's a time to offer our prayers at the gates of heaven are open more than any other time during our service. So before we offer prayers and songs of peace, I'd like to share some words from a prayer written by Dr. Erica Brown, a prayer for all of us, At this time, I pray for all of us to have the resolve to accept whatever the election result will be. I pray that there will be no violence as a result of this election. I pray that relationships fractured by politics will be reconciled. I pray for the patience to wait out what could be a long and drawn-out election. I pray for the end of those mean arguments among strangers and friends on social media and in person. I pray for the kindness to reach out to neighbors who do not vote like me. I pray for a peaceful succession of power. I pray that whatever party wins will reach across the aisle. I pray that no matter the outcome, anti-Semitism will be on the decline. I pray that we can still internalize the Talmud's message of robust and respectful debate. And I pray that I'm fair enough to acknowledge the contributions of the party I did not vote for. I pray for the wisdom to believe in our unity, even when we don't act like it. I pray on this Shabbat for peace, for us, and for all of us as Americans. Shalom Rav.
Page 51. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki ata hu melech Adon l'kol hashalom. Ki ata hu Shalom, Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov be'einecha levarech et Amcha Yisrael. בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. ברוך אתה המברך את עמו ישראל בשלום.
Now it's that time in the service where we ask you to put your arms around each other and let's all sway together to Oseh Shalom.
עושה שלום, עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו, שלום עלינו, עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. הוא יעשה שלום עלינו, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. עושה שלום, עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו, שלום עלינו, עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן.
this Shabbat, we not only offer our prayers for peace, but we offer our prayers of healing. A refuah shlema for all those in our family and all those in our community who are ill at this time, as the cantor offers the Misha Berach prayer.
Misha Berach Avoteinu Mekor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing for us and all of those we love. Misha Berach Imotenu Mekor HaBracha Lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say
And you may be seated. As we continue now in our prayer books with the Kaddish Shalom, page 54.
יתגדל ויתקדש שם רבה, ואלמד יבדל חידותי, וימליך מלכותי, וחייכון ומכון וחייך לבית ישראל, ועגלה בזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך, לעלם ולעלמי עלמיה, יתברך, וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי לקודשה בריחו, לעילה מקומך בשירתה, תשבחתה ונחמתה, תאמירן בעלמא, ואמרו אמן. תתקבל צלותון ואותון כל ישראל, קודם מבוני בשמיה, ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו על כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו amen.
And now I invite everyone to rise as we open the ark for the Aleinu, page 56.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויסד הארץ, ומשב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובי מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Now I invite all those in mourning and all those observing a yahrzeit to remain standing for the words of the mourner's Kaddish. And this week at Beth Yeshurun, we offer special condolences to the families of Bonnie Zuber Bierman, Sylvia Schiffman Goldman, Eleanor Lonshine, and Freda Katz. The mourner's Kaddish, page 58. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, v'yalma divrach yirteh v'yamlik machuteh, v'chayikon v'yomekon v'chayeh dekol beit Yisrael, v'agalav izman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevorach le'olam omei amaya. Yitbarak v'yishtabak v'yitba'ar v'yitroman v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei dekudusha b'richu. Le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata, tishbechata v'nechemata, da'amiram bi'alma v'yimru amen. Yehei shlama rabbah min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'yakol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Osei shalom b'mromav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu v'yakol Yisrael v'yimru amen. So we have a lot to celebrate this evening. 4 celebrations with one extended family. And so first I'd like to call up Holly Wertheimer and Matt Abrams, who will be getting married in just 2 weeks. Let's wish them mazel tov. So Holly and Matt both grew up here at Beth Yeshurun. I've known them for a very, very long time. They actually knew each other since the age of 5 years old as students in our Beth Yeshurun religious school. They were reunited at Bel Air High School and Hillel High School. 11 years ago, they went on their first date at Fuddruckers in November of 2009. They live in Chicago now, but I know, God willing, they'll be back in Houston sometime in the future. That's what the future holds, because I know how much it would mean for all your family that's here or watching online. You're very, very proud parents. You have some great models of what marriage is all about here this evening. From parents and grandparents, you have a lot to be proud of. And I'm excited because this is the first time I'll have an opportunity to marry a couple that was on the cover of the Bel Air Buzz, where it said, from prom to lifetime love. And so what an honor it will be for me 2 weeks from this Sunday as we gather together to celebrate this wonderful simcha. And so tonight, before those who love you, on our bima at this synagogue that means so much to you guys and your family, and before God on this beautiful Shabbat, we offer these words from our tradition. Yivarecha Adonai v'yishmarecha, Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yihuneka, Yisad Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May God always bless you and keep you. May God always show you his favor and be gracious to you. May God only show you kindness and give you the gift of shalom, the gift of peace, always, for many, many years to come, as husband and wife. And let us all say, Amen. Mazel tov again, and I look forward to celebrating. And in celebration of their upcoming marriage, we presented them some wonderful gifts from our Beth Yeshurun Sisterhood. They'll give you an opportunity. There's some nice items in there. They'll give you an opportunity to celebrate Shabbat and upcoming Jewish holidays. And so Holly and Matt, I mentioned that you have other family members that are here this evening who are also celebrating special anniversaries. And so first, Matt, we have your sister Gail, who is tonight with her husband Corby. And I don't know where your beautiful son Moses went. Oh, he's right there with proud grandparents, asleep. We put him to sleep, and that's okay. A beautiful baby boy. And that's really what was the most important celebration, the best simcha, the best thing that happened to you, the birth of your son Moses Robert Kelly back in July. That brought all of us a lot of happiness at a time when we needed it more than ever. And so Gail and Corby, we wish you mazel tov on your second wedding anniversary, and may God continue to bless the two of you for many years to come. Mazel tov. And celebrating their 7th wedding anniversary, your cousins, Leslie and Daniel Pessis. And I remember 7 years ago when we gathered together at the Estonian for your beautiful wedding. And now 7 years later, you have 2 children that are with us, 2 beautiful children. Leslie, you do a terrific job for us in our Beth Yeshurun Day School. And it's great to have the 2 of you with us. In this past summer, you took an 18-hour road trip to Minneapolis for the summer to be able to see Daniel's family up there. And I'm glad you were able to go and spend time with them, and it's good to have you with us this evening with your parents and other family members. May God continue to bless the two of you for many, many years to come as tonight you celebrate your 7th wedding anniversary. Mazel tov. We have a 41st wedding anniversary, no relation to the family, but proud members and wonderful people. They're not with us this evening, but it's a pleasure to celebrate Mark and Marlene Finkelstein's 41st wedding anniversary. Mark and Marlene, we celebrated over this year, and we mourned together over this year. But tonight we celebrate. And you're lucky to have 4 daughters and 5 grandchildren. And you've been part of our community at Beth Yeshurun for 41 years. And this past year, it's been a blessing for you that you're still able to be with your children and grandchildren and remain healthy. May only blessings and more simchas for the two of you and all of your family. Happy 41st wedding anniversary. And now for a very, very special anniversary. It's not often that we are blessed with a couple that has been married for 70 years. But they are grandparents, proud grandparents this evening. We have others that are with us. We have a wonderful simcha, as I mentioned earlier, just 2 weeks away. You have a lot to be proud of. So let's welcome and celebrate Ray and Buddy Gerson's 70th wedding anniversary. Ray and Buddy, you were both born here in Houston, and you grew up in large, loving families. You met when you were just 13 years old. You dated in high school and married while Buddy, you were in pharmacy school. Buddy worked for over 45 years as a pharmacist. Ray has volunteered in the medical center for over 50 years. And with the last 30 years at MD Anderson, where I've seen you many times in the past. You feel very blessed that your 3 children married wonderful people, and they gave you 9 incredible grandchildren and 6 more by marriage. And you're blessed to see them all as adults with their own lives today. During the past year, you celebrated your 90th birthdays with a fun party last Thanksgiving and welcomed your 11th great-grandchild in July. You're looking forward to your grandson Matt's marriage, to Holly in a few weeks, and to your oldest great-grandson Ethan's bar mitzvah in January. It's going to be a good year ahead. What's your secret for a successful marriage? You told me there's really no secret. Just taking life as it happens and being thankful for each other and having good family and friends. And how have you been able to stay together for so long? With good health, good luck, and a lot of faith. And you're both very thankful that God has blessed the two of you, and He has. And may God continue to bless you for many more years to come. The simchas like tonight and like we'll celebrate in a few weeks and other times this upcoming year. May God continue to bless you with health, happiness, and shalom always. And let us all proudly say, Amen. Cantor, let's sing Siman Tov and Mazel Tov.
Siman Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Siman Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Siman Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Siman Tov. Yehei lanu, Yehei lanu, Yehei lanu, Olechol Yisrael. Yehei lanu, Yehei lanu, Olechol Yisrael. Mazel Tov.
So we have a lot happening here at Beth Yeshurun, virtually and in person. So I want to share just a few announcements with you. Tomorrow morning, for our Shabbat morning service, the Cantor and I are unveiling a new Shabbat morning service called Shabbat Refreshed. This will be our first one, and we are blessed to have our Shabbat Renewal band that will join us tomorrow morning. I hope you can join us online. The service begins at 9:30. We'll be over around 11 o'clock, so make sure you tune in. There'll be some real surprises, some new melodies, some upbeat tunes to make us all feel refreshed, and don't we need it more than ever. So I hope you'll join us tomorrow morning. We're very grateful for the generosity of the Albert and Ethel Herstein Charitable Foundation that we just found out this week will be supporting upcoming Shabbat renewal services outdoors. We had one past Friday night. We had a lot of people outside, so we're going to do it again on November 27th. And we're going to try to do it several times this year. During this pandemic, being outside, of course, allows us to have more people with us and to celebrate Shabbat. So look for the next Shabbat renewal outdoors on November 27th. This week, this Thursday, We're looking forward to 2 special programs to go with the theme of the year of overcoming our challenges. I'm going to be joined for a lunch and learn program with my friend and one of my heroes, Aaron Berry, who's now a senior in high school. No one exemplifies that theme more than Aaron and his siblings. So I hope you'll join me 12 o'clock this Thursday. You can register online. Thursday evening, I'll be having a conversation with Jennifer Teague, author of My Grandfather Would Have Shot Me. She discovered by chance that her grandfather was the awful Amon Goeth, the Nazi commandant depicted in Schindler's List. And her story, her exploration and healing is inspiring, and we're excited to hear from her. As a black woman, there's no doubt her grandfather would have shot her. And how has she gone on with her life? What has she learned? I hope you'll join us this Thursday evening for it looks like a very interesting discussion. Next Friday night at 5 o'clock will be Story Time with Rabbi Fort. Every Friday at 5 o'clock online, we'll have an opportunity for our young families to come together with Rabbi Fort and others to begin Shabbat. And on Tuesday at lunch, November 17th at noon, Sisterhood is partnering with our Jewish Community Center Books and Arts Festival for the first ever virtual Torah Fund. So look for information on our website. We're excited that the Cantors Assembly, the group of conservative, reform cantors across the country, is hosting a series of interviews with the top cantors in the country. Of course, they chose Cantor Meir Finkelstein to be part of it. Their guests this Monday evening. So join, look online for information to spend some time with Cantor Finkelstein online. So there's a lot happening. There's many programs I didn't even talk about because I don't want to continue to give you too many details. So go to our website. We're very blessed to have such an incredible staff and leadership that allows us to provide for you virtually and in person during this time. And finally, just a reminder, in just a few minutes, when we conclude our service, stay on. We're going to have a very important discussion with my friend Mark Tobin, the regional director of our ADL chapter. A lot to talk about during this time of year and during this time. So stay on afterwards, which should be a very interesting discussion for our monthly Shabbat table talk. And so with that, I want to bless all of our children that may be watching us or here in the Barg Sanctuary. For our sons, we say Yesimcha Elohim Ke'Ephraim Ke'Menashe. May God bless them like Ephraim and Menashe. For our daughters, Yesimech Elohim Kesarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah. May God bless them like Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah. And for all of our beautiful children, may God bless you with peace always. And now let us rise for the Kiddush.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shavat kodsho b'yahava uvratzon hinchilanu, zikaron le'masei v'reshit, ki hu yom techila le'mikra'ei kodesh, זכר ליציאת מצרים, כי באנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, לשבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת. שבת שלום, שבת שלום, שבת 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 שלום, שבת שלום, שבת שלום, שבת 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 שלום, שבת 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 שלום, שבת 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 שלום, שבת שלום, שבת שלום, שבת 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 שלום, שבת שלום, שבת שלום, שבת 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 שבת
So good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to have you with us and for what is our monthly Shabbat table talk. It's always a pleasure to invite influential guests in the Jewish community and the non-Jewish community throughout the city of Houston. Tonight we're joined by Mark Tobin, who has served as ADL Southwest Regional Director since November of 2019, which seems like a lifetime ago.
Indeed.
Mark brings more than 15 years of nonprofit leadership to the job, from his consulting practice, from his work with the Israel Project in APAC, where he was the Southwest Regional Director. An attorney and freelance writer, Mark also has broad media, communications, and legal experience. As Regional Director of ADL, Mark plans and directs all regional office activities, including fundraising, programming, leadership development, communications, government relations, fact-finding research, and office management. He oversees a staff of 7. You were certainly the right choice for ADL.
Thank you.
I know what it is an honor in our community when you were chosen by ADL just a year ago. Mark's a former co-chair of the Evelyn Rubenstein JCC Scholarship Ball Committee, former board chair of the Interethnic Forum, and former board member of the Houston Area Women's Center. He's a graduate of the University of Texas School of Law and Emory University. So Mark, let's start by telling us, why did you decide to come back to the nonprofit Jewish world, and why ADL?
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much for having me to this forum. And before I answer that question, I just want to, first of all, thank you for all your sermons as of late, which have been really terrific on all the issues that we address. In particular, I think you gave one this summer, which I hadn't heard. It had to deal with, I think, athletes talking about, issues affecting anti-Semitism. And I hope you don't mind this bit of a digression, but
Sure.
I hadn't heard it yet. I do follow you on Facebook, and so I do see a lot of them. It happened to be a day where, because we're working remote, the phones were routed to my cell phone. And I answered the call, and it was a gentleman saying, I've got this great sermon. It's on anti-Semitism. You have to hear it. You have to watch it. It's really terrific. And I said, absolutely, I'd love to. Which rabbi gave it? And he said, Rabbi Strauss of Beth Yeshua. I said, I'm a big fan. I usually, follow his sermons. I'd be happy to do it. Can you please send me email? And, we talked for a bit. And he said, oh, by the way, I'm his father.
Oh, God.
So I want you to know that you've got a great PR team. You're set in that area. But the sermon was terrific, and I'm glad that he forwarded it.
Well, I figure if anyone's going to like the sermon, God willing, it's my parents, right?
So Larry, if you are watching,
yeah, no,
thank you for forwarding.
They are. And unfortunately, there's been no shortage of sermon topics when it comes to anti-Semitism in the last couple of years. So is that what got you more interested in coming back to the Jewish nonprofit world and maybe ADL?
Partially. So I wasn't really focused on re-entering Jewish professional life. I received a phone call asking if I was interested, and so it was really the work of ADL that brought me back. Not only the work addressing anti-Semitism, but the work on social justice, and particularly this time. A lot of the issues I was kind of working on, in various aspects on my own. But I realized, in my experience with APAC taught me this, that when you can work with an established organization that has a lot of strength and a lot of experience that can magnify your own work, that you can accomplish so much more. And so when I thought about that and kind of matched my own goals with where ADL was, that I felt that there was a great opportunity. And so I decided that it was something that I wanted to do. And I guess the other piece of it was, my daughter in 2017 was a student at the University of Virginia. Yeah. And while she wasn't there at the time, she arrived a few days later, the march on Charlottesville was really impactful. seeing people march on the lawn saying Jews will not replace us. While I've certainly been, concerned about extremism for a long time, knowing how much ADL is involved in confronting extremists and having that opportunity to be engaged from a professional standpoint, I felt was really an opportunity that I couldn't pass up.
And now, and I'm glad you decided to take that opportunity, and no doubt that march in Virginia, University of Virginia, was a turning point, I think, in American history. And I know for all of us, especially as Jews, we may take for granted that people know what ADL is. But spend a moment, Mark, what is ADL? There's this rich history, and how has ADL adapted to this new modern era of social media and just this very different time than when ADL began?
Sure. Well, you hit the nail on the head in terms of how we're different. But in many ways, we're the same. Founded in 1913 to stop the defamation of the Jewish people and secure justice for all. And in many ways, it's a bifurcated mission in terms of we are here to fight anti-Semitism, but we're also here to pursue, civil rights and justice. But those two missions have always intersected because, as we say, Jews are really only as safe as any minority in this country. And so not only do we do this work because it's the right thing to do, but we also know that Jews are safer when everybody in this country is safer. Yeah. The biggest change really has to do with where the hate is and where it generates itself, and that is online and in social media. And so we've, over the last few years, have really had to adopt ourselves of how to find it and to confront that. And so we formed, for example, two centers. One is the Center on Extremism, and the other is our Center on Technology and Society. The first, they spend pretty much all their time, besides the research, looking online at the activities of these extremist groups and trying to get a handle on what they're doing. And goes into databases and whatnot. And if they do find something that rises to the level of potential criminality, then they'll, provide it to law enforcement. But they are the essential element in terms of our providing understanding of what is happening with extremists in this country. The Center on Technology and Society is newer. Their focus is on working, it's based in Silicon Valley. And they want to essentially really partner with, media companies, social media companies, and technology companies to help them better avoid hate percolating onto their sites. And this has been a big issue. Both of these centers work really well in tandem together this summer on a effort called Stop Profit for Hate. And it was something that really became enormously successful. We partnered with groups like LULAC and NAACP and a few others. And the idea was to really send a message that not that, organizations like Facebook and others needed to create new policies, but just that they had to enforce the policies that they have. And they needed to do it consistently because there had been this ebb and flow. And so if somebody wasn't really paying attention, they just kind of go back and things would erupt. And it's just amazing and really sad in terms of how much hate and how many people had been recruited, through these sites. And it has improved. One tangible piece that we saw, and we can only claim, maybe a little bit of credit because there are so many organizations involved, which is Facebook finally changed their policy on Holocaust denial. Yeah. For the longest time, they allowed any kind of content that said, that the Holocaust didn't exist or was lesser than or however you wanted to call it, and they said it was just an opinion. Finally, about a month ago, they changed that policy, and we hope that is a policy that is enforced, and obviously we're going to watch them to make sure that it is enforced. But that's an effort that's going on for almost a decade that we've been a part of, as well as many other Jewish organizations. But it's a matter of, telling them that, look, you've got these policies. You can enforce them. You have the right. And finally, because of some pressure that was exerted, but also it's not just pressure; it's also working with them and helping them understand how they can help themselves and therefore help society in general.
I was so happy to see that Facebook finally changed its policy. It took too long.
Absolutely.
But I know that ADL played a big part in that, and I think that's what I often remind our members. If I get a call, their son or their daughter experience anti-Semitism, whether it's in high school or on their college campus, or something happens to someone in the community, or they see something online, I tell them, go to the ADL website, call the ADL. They are, that's the place for our Jewish community still. And it's been nice to see that the ADLs have been able to adapt to these times and to really, look, social media is the place now where a lot of this is found, whether it's Holocaust denial or QAnon or these other conspiracy theories. And so that brings me to what's happening right now. This has, of course, been a difficult week in many respects. We've never had to preach. I've never thought more about patience in my life. But I think all of us as American Jews, when we go through weeks like this, and there's a lot of conspiracy theories online.
Right.
Have you seen an uptick in anti-Semitism, and what should we be watching for as Jews? What should we be frightened of right now in this? We've already been dealing with this pandemic where there's plenty of conspiracy theories. We have QAnon, which is one big ridiculous conspiracy theory that has very anti-Semitic overtones. And now we have this contentious election, and there's conspiracy theories. So, and as you know, conspiracy theories are they're never good for us as Jews.
They're never good. They're never good.
What should we be watching for?
Yeah, well, first of all, I just want to tell you the prayer that you read during services, which I don't know if everybody heard, was really terrific, and thank you for sharing that, because that's the message that people need to hear, and is similar to some of the things that we've been talking about. And I also want to make the general point that as hard as this week has been, let's not forget that there's actually a lot to celebrate. We, in spite of the pandemic, in spite of the divisiveness in this country, which is very clear, we had what was probably the most people vote in an election across the country. And we can celebrate, and we should celebrate that, regardless of your partisan affiliation. And so I think that was something that we were working towards in our effort. We've been really involved in voting rights as of late. We were involved in some lawsuits in order to make sure that people had safe and secure access to the ballot, regardless of their political persuasion. And that's what we wanted to see was participation. And we saw that, and we're very, very grateful for that. But still, we're now in a position where it's a very close race, and this is something that we've been concerned about, as others have as well. And these conspiracy theories, which have been out there and have been percolating, look, first of all, a lot of these things, they start with these extremist groups. They put them out. And then they percolate in sort of to the mainstream. Yeah. And that's what you see when you see your friend or somebody post it in a sort of a meme. It didn't start in that form. It usually started someplace very, very different, and it kind of worked its way up. But one of the things that it's important to note is whenever there is divisiveness, there's going to be scapegoats. Yep. Right? People look for scapegoats, and whether those are Jews, whether those are other minorities, whether they're immigrants. So we have to be cognizant of that, and we have to push back against that. So we have to push back against those conspiracy theories, and we also have to know what to watch for. There's a lot of dog whistles out there. For example, a lot of these theories are saying that George Soros or globalists are behind stealing the election, or things like that. Those are codes. Globalists and George Soros, those are codes for Jews. George Soros is sort of the new Rothschild, so to speak. And so, we have to be careful not to give credence to that, even inadvertently. And those are kind of in terms of just what's happening like right now. Those are the things that we really, need to watch for, and also watch for people who are really trying to undermine democracy. There are, if somebody has legitimate concerns about, something that happens in an election, absolutely they should bring it forward. But there's a big difference between people who are just out and out trying to really undermine our democratic process, and it's really also been refreshing to see that people on both sides of the aisle have been speaking out and saying to respect the process and to respect people's votes.
Right, and definitely a message we need to echo. And it always amazes me when I even have members here at Beth Yeshurun who perpetuate some of these conspiracy theories, not realizing that the sources are usually very anti-Semitic. And it just amazes me. One of the things I like about ADL as well is that ADL works first and foremost to protect Jews, but also other minorities.
Right.
And I think it's always a reminder, I think, and I know you agree, obviously, Mark, is that, if one minority, whether it's immigrants or American Muslims or blacks or Hispanics, whatever it may be, if they are persecuted, then we are persecuted. That we have to go out and pray. And how do we get that message across? Because in this day and age, you have some Jews who seem not to care about other minorities or immigrants, whether they're legal or illegal. How do we get them to realize that the people that are railing against immigrants, they don't think highly of you and me either. In fact,
Right.
They usually blame us. Like what we saw in Pittsburgh, that maniac who attacked the Jews at Tree of Life Synagogue, attacked that synagogue because they had hosted an event for the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society. So, is there any advice you would give? Is there anything we could do?
Look, that's a really very challenging question, and I welcome your advice because you can come to my next family gathering and perhaps help. But I wish I had a ready answer for you. But I guess what I can say are two things. Is that as we as Jews have far more in common than we don't, right? And the other thing is just for you on the pulpit and others on the pulpit and any person involved in any form of leadership, whether it's preaching or urging, whatever the term you want to use, which is that we're going to disagree, right? There's probably more levels of sort of political disagreement in the Jewish community than in times past, and that's okay. What isn't okay is how we deal with those differences. And so when somebody says, you're wrong, and because you're wrong, you're anti fill in the blank, right?
Yeah.
That's where it becomes a problem.
Yeah.
We can disagree, but still basically have the same beliefs in something, but just have a different belief in terms of how to get to maybe the same goal. It doesn't mean that we don't want that ultimate goal, whatever that is. Mm-hmm. And I think if we just talk about it more, and quite frankly, a lot of times it just hasn't been talked about in the open.
Yeah.
And so I think that might be the first, quite frankly, important aspect of it, is just talking about it and out loud and saying, yeah, there's something that we need to talk about as a community.
Yeah, and no doubt, and that's Look, we are a fractured society, and we are a fractured Jewish community right now. And I know whether it's ADL or synagogues, and I preach about this often. My colleagues here, I know ADL, of course, believes in this, is that we can't lose sight of what unity means, especially as Jews. And we can disagree. We should have disagreements. I mentioned in the prayer earlier, the beauty of the Talmud, the reason why it's lasted for so long is because these rabbis, they went at it, but they always found a way to respect each other at the end. That they may go at it in the pages of the Talmud that we study today, and the arguments they went against each other are profound and important, but in the end, we remember, and it's often recounted in the Talmud, that they would socialize with each other, that their daughters would marry the sons of the other, that Hillel and Shammai, who had the greatest dispute of all, and they disputed all the time in the Talmud, we usually follow Hillel because Hillel showed more deference and respect to Shammai, and always mentioned Shammai's arguments first, then his own. And so it's an important lesson for us, and I know we work in partnership together, and whether we're Democrats or Republicans, and no matter who we voted for, that doesn't matter. What's important is that we're Jews, and we have to find common ground, because we have a lot to work for right now.
Yeah, absolutely, and I know that, kind of broadening that discussion into society as a whole, we as an organization are going to be looking over the next days and weeks, in terms of how we can help bridge some of these gaps, and, is it, when and if is it possible to bring people of really differing views kind of together to at least just have a discussion where people can at least try to understand each other, without the vociferous and the anger.
Right.
We'd like to at least get to that point.
Right.
And we have experience with convening people of differing opinions, and whether we can use our expertise for that, certainly something that we would like to explore.
Absolutely. And look, you brought up one good point, is that as difficult as this week has been, God willing this continues, it's been relatively peaceful in American cities, and God willing that continues. One last question. I don't think a lot of people realize, but ADL does a lot to help Israel. So talk a little bit about that, Mark.
Sure. So, we have and continue to be, staunch believers in a strong Jewish and democratic Israel. And there are many ways that we lend our support to the state of Israel, but we really kind of focus right now on kind of confronting issues that are aimed at delegitimizing Israel. And that kind of falls into, 2-3 categories primarily. One is BDS. The second is the criticism of Israel that really then kind of shifts into, beyond criticism and into kind of anti-Semitism. And oftentimes it's a fine line, but there's a difference. And the third is, there's an issue that has been happening a lot of times. It's been on campuses, but it's where, Jews on like organizations and committees are being forced to like have this litmus test, like that if you're Jewish, you're assumed, to have this affinity to Israel, and therefore you're biased. And the only way to overcome that is to basically, renounce your affinity and support for Israel. And unless you do that, you're not going to be allowed to serve on whatever this is. And so those are the kind of the three main areas where we're really focused on, kind of helping, because it fits kind of our profile of trying to prevent, anti-Semitism, because, particularly with BDS, it really, that's what it is. It's more than not. And it's also important, however, to recognize that, somebody can be, like we talked about earlier, can have a criticism of Israel, just like they have a criticism of the United States that isn't anti-Semitic, but also when it crosses that line,
right.
It is important to say something.
Absolutely. You know, I remind people all the time, if you are against a Jewish state in the land of Israel, then in my book, you are delegitimizing our claim, you're delegitimizing our people, and I would put you in the anti-Semitic category. But that's different than having a criticism of a particular Israeli policy or a particular leader of Israel, whether it's the Labour Party or the Likud Party, whether it's Netanyahu or whether it was Shimon Peres, may he rest in peace. We can criticize, we can critique, but when we cross that line and we say, you know, that there just shouldn't be a Jewish state, when you support BDS, you do cross that line of anti-Semitism.
Right, and so that's where we've spent a lot of our time in terms of our Israel work as of late. And we also have an office in Israel, by the way, that works on issues, you know, addressing bigotry and hate, you know, pluralism and democracy, and they do a really great job, particularly in terms of a lot of educational opportunities there as well. And hopefully one day I will get to meet the director in person, other than just on Zoom.
God willing, soon you'll be able to fly to Israel.
Yeah.
Well, Mark, you got your hands full, whether it's people on the extreme right or on the extreme left. You got your hand full. So know that we at Beth Yeshurun, we're always happy to help. We love to have you back sometime. We always enjoy co-hosting programs. And we were going to do a program together this year and the pandemic hit, but we'll do it again in the future.
Absolutely.
And, let's continue the partnership. We thank you for all that you do, your important organization does, and thank you for joining us this evening, Mark.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Good Shabbos, everybody.